There's about to be a huge shift coming to the Toronto real estate market that you need to be aware of, especially if you're looking to buy a property in 2025. So in this video, we'll talk about the best properties to buy in 2025. I'm going to break this video down into two segments, one for investors that are looking to invest in property and the other for end users that are looking for their primary home. And at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you the property type that has the best and most lucrative deals right now in 2025. If you're new here, my name is Sitzer from Teamster Real Estate. I'm a local real estate agent right here in the Greater Toronto area. I help clients with buying, selling, leasing, investing, as well as pre-construction condos. Please consider subscribing for all things real estate. Okay, so let's start with investors. The best property type for investors right now really depends on one of two things. Number one, what your investment goals are. If we look at condo specifically, we know that there's a ton of condo inventory out there. Condo inventory has been brewing since 2023. In fact, the end of 2022 and until now. That's because a lot of investor clients at that time had found themselves stuck with high interest rates, making high payments, and their rents likely not covering their mortgage payments. A lot of them had renewals come up that increased their payments as high as 60%. So we had a lot of distressed sellers at that time and still do until this day. The other reason for condo inventory being extremely high is because we had a lot of new condos come into the market. Last year alone, we had close to 30,000 new condos come to market, and in 2025, we're about to have another 30 to 40,000 new condos hit the market, which is going to further increase the supply. This opens doors for buyers, especially investors, if you guys are looking to buy condos at pre-pandemic level pricing. Condo prices haven't exactly gone up since 2019, 2020 levels. And we're seeing condos on the market right now where you're going into baked-in equity. Now, I know what you might be thinking just based off of that response that, well, why should we invest in condos? Because condos haven't really gone up in value. Well, if you are okay to invest in a property long term, and when I say long term, I'm talking at the bare minimum 5 to 7 years minimum and beyond, you will likely see growth for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's not a whole lot more condos projects being launched, which means that builders aren't really building because they are not able to sell anything. So this is going to create a shortage of supply in the future, especially around that 2027, 2028 and beyond timeframe. So even though supply is quite high right now, if you're in the long game, condos can be a great way to go. Not to mention, condos are an easy and passive investment from my perspective. When I say passive, I mean you're not as active as you would be in other property types. You barely hear from your tenants. They're much easier to manage. Tenant's first point of contact tends to always be property manager. The condo management. Okay, next we've got freehold properties for investors. Now, detached properties and freehold properties in general is always going to be in high demand just because the inventory tends to be a lot lower than condos, especially when you're looking at that entry-level freehold property, townhouses, semi-detached from that, $999,000 to $1.2 million mark. It's quite a competitive market because a lot of first-time buyers tend to also want to compete in that area because that's their entry point. And if you've been following the news closely or watching my videos, then you know that there's new mortgage rules effective December 15th, which now extend the amortization period for first-time buyers to 30 years and also increase the minimum down payment required from $1 million to $1.5 million. So that's going to further increase a lot of demand into that freehold segment, that entry-level freehold segment. Now, having said that, freehold properties tend to do really well over time in terms of values, which is why it's quite popular with a lot of investors. But just be mindful that because of the shortage of inventory, you may be competing with some first-time buyers going into 2025, especially now that the Bank of Canada has done 5 consecutive rate drops and the last one being 50 basis points. We're seeing a lot of buyers getting their pre-approvals right now, getting ready to jump into the market beginning 2025. Now, from a cash flow perspective, it's still quite difficult for a lot of properties to cash flow right now, given today's interest rates. However, if you put more money down, obviously your monthly payments are going to be lower. There's always cash flow in properties if you're willing to put more money down. But at the end of the day, you're just going to have to see where your numbers make sense when you're looking at an investment property, whether they're condos or freehold properties. My advice to a lot of my investor clients is to be looking at condos just because there's so many great deals out in the market right now. All right, now let's talk about end users or people looking to buy their primary homes. Again, condos are an excellent, excellent choice, especially if your budget is low and you have minimal down payment set aside. It's a great entry point, especially now because there's so much inventory. As of December of 2024, there was over 5 to 6 months of inventory, as high as 7 months of inventory, depending on the location that you're looking at. For example, downtown core, there's over 6 months of inventory, which means there's a lot of condos for sale. A lot of condos for sale, a lot of property sitting on the market longer, tends to mean that the sellers are willing to give a lot more concessions and a lot more discount. There's a lot of ways you can negotiate. You can put all kinds of conditions in and find a really suitable condo at a great price. And again, if you are a first-time buyer, this is a great opportunity for you to take advantage of the new mortgage rules, where you can now take your minimum down payment and look at property types that are between $1 to $1.5 million range, extending your amortization to 30 years. Of course, the longer you extend your amortization, the more interest you're going to be paying. But again, there's a give and take. Your monthly payments are going to be lower. So that's something that you're going to have to figure out on your own to see if that's something you're okay with. And what's interesting to note is that detached properties that are over the $2 million mark tends to have the most inventory right now. I know I said earlier that freehold properties have lower inventory, but that's mostly in that entry level, $999 to $1.2, $1.3 million range. But properties, detached properties in Toronto that are above that $2 million mark have a ton of inventory. And those are the property types that had the biggest correction from the peak of the market in 2022 till now. So if you are somebody that's potentially has a lot of down payment and you want to buy a property that's over 2 million, perhaps you're an upsizer going from a condo or a semi to a detached, or you're going from a smaller detached to a bigger detached. Great time to get into the north of $2 million mark right now because there's a lot of supply. Now, I just want to put a quick word on timing. Right now we're sitting in January of 2025. In fact, we're in the first week of 2025, and winter tends to be an excellent time for buyers to go out and buy property for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's not a whole lot of other buyers out there that are looking in the winter. Nobody wants to move or buy or go look at properties in the winter. So there's far fewer competition. And number two, sellers that are looking to sell or have their property listed in the winter time tend to be quite motivated, either because they are in a financial jam and they can no longer afford to keep their property and they have to sell, or they have to sell because they have also purchased a property and timing is of the essence and they need to get rid of their property quick. So winter is a fantastic time to shop around. Okay, now, as promised, the most lucrative property type that is out there in the market right now, and in my opinion will be for the rest of 2025, are brand new condos. When I say brand new condos, I'm not just referring to assignment sales, which are in itself a great deal. I've got a whole video series on assignments that I'm going to link in the description that you guys can watch. But I'm also talking about brand new condos that are coming up for completion or that have already closed, and builders inventory condos. Look, right now, there's already an excess supply of condos, and that's largely due to the fact that there's already so many brand new condos coming into the market, which has increased the supply of condos overall. But when you look at the brand new segment specifically, a lot of the buyers there are quite distressed and extremely motivated to sell because they don't have the ability to close on the property. And number two, you have builders who have excess inventory left and they just want to sell and move on to another project. I've got a list of incredible condos along the Queensway in South Etobicoke. If you guys are interested in a list of distressed brand new condos, just click the link in the description below. There's going to be a form there that you can fill out, and I'll personally email you a list of condos that are distressed right now along the Queensway, ready to move in, brand new, never been lived in, at incredibly low prices, far below market value. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like. And of course, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care.